Hello everyone, and welcome to the demonstration videos. So I apologize for not creating one for last week's material where you were going over how to design an algorithm and some of the basics of what an algorithm entails. Those concepts are basically just a layout of the general programming ideologies that we'll be going over in this course. So I will actually be going over each of those things in depth. As for the pseudocode and the flowcharts, that is mostly up to you. It's just a generalized idea of how to plan out any algorithms. But as for if you read about loops, if statements, we will be going over that specifically with these videos. So how to use them with Java. So if you're still confused, do not worry. We will go over that more in depth. It was more of just an introduction of those terminologies, those ideas, so you know what to expect for the future. So again, if you find yourself lost, we'll go over it, and of course these videos will show you exactly how to implement it. Your assignment is having you download Eclipse Studio. So this is an IDE. This is an environment in which we could create Java projects as well as run them. Please make sure you're going over that assignment step by step. You also do have to download Java itself so it could actually run here on your device. So make sure you have those two installed. And again, if you're using something else that's not the Eclipse IDE, that's perfectly okay as long as you know how to write and run your own programs from there. Later on, if we go into graphics, there will be some tweaks that you do have to make. So again, if you're using a different IDE, just be wary when we get to the graphics portion, but that's not until the very end of the course. For the rest of it, you should be fine. But for those using the Eclipse IDE, I'm actually going to show ahead and show you the basics of what you will need for the rest of this course. So this is my downloaded IDE, and if I open it up, it's showing on a different window. There we go. And it'll typically ask you where you're going to be keeping these files. So it needs to find a way, it needs a place in which it's keeping the Java files along with everything that goes along with its project. I'll discuss that in a bit. But here, keep note of where this path is in your system. So take note of that path. So for me, it's in my users and in a folder called Eclipse Workspace. Typically that's some default name that will be given for your projects as well. So just keep this in mind because this is how you'll locate your assignments to turn them in. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it from here. And no, I didn't click that check mark, that box, because I want to make sure that I keep knowing the class. So just in case you ever don't know that path, you could go with that. Okay, so now Eclipse Studio is opened up, and we could see here that this is the general layout of it. You'll notice I already have folders here from the prior courses, but we're going to go ahead and create a new one. So this kind of looks like your typical file explorer. So this is specific to that folder in which earlier, as you saw, where it's holding everything that we create from Eclipse Studio, so all of our Java files. If we want to, in my case, let's go ahead and create a new folder. So we're going to create a new project, specifically a new Java project. So you'll go up here to tab, this tab called File. There we go. And you'll notice that there's a button for New, and if I hover over it, it gives me a bunch of options. I'm going to have you create a new Java project. So we're going to open that, and you'll get this dialog box that opens up where we could indicate the project name. So in my case, I'm going to call it the test project. So just for this demo, make sure for your assignment you're naming it properly. Okay, so this is my test project, and looking over everything, you could keep all of this the same. So we're going to go ahead, just name it. I'm going to finish it, and you could see it appears over here. So it appears in our Package Explorer pane. And now I could go ahead and use this arrow to see its contents, and you should have the JRE system library and something called the SRC, so the source folder. And if you open up the library, this is basically we'll go over specifically what this is later in the course, but you don't need to worry about any of these. Basically, this is what's helping you do some things in Java. This is all code that's kind of already available for you to utilize within your projects. So you could close that up. So your source folder is where we're going to keep all of the Java programs, so the programs that you will be writing in this course. So we're actually, if you start a new project, you're going to have to go ahead and let's right click on the source folder, so SRC, and then we're going to go new, and we're going to create a new package. There we go. So now in this package, I'm going to name it to the name of the project itself, so test project. You can name it however you want, but we're going to go ahead. I'm going to call this test project. There we go. And you can leave everything as is, click on finish. Perfect. And now from here, I'm going to right click on the package test project, and now I'm going to go to new, and we're going to create a new class. I'll mention a little bit about what class is in a moment. So you're going to create a new class, and this is actually what you're going to name your Java file specifically. So in our case, I know for the assignment this week, it's a Hello World program. So we're going to go ahead and we'll name it pretty much the same thing. So Hello World, make sure you have, there we go, it's public. And I'm going to have you go ahead and down here, these are called method stubs. Basically, it'll pre-input some code for you to have it start running up. In this case, we want this line right here, public static void main string args. So this is going to be important. So again, make sure you name your class, make sure this check mark is marked for public static void main, and then you can click finish. So now when it opens up, it should look like this, or at least similar to this, depending on how you set up for the test project. Now I'm going to go ahead and break down exactly what this Java file is saying as of now. So this is your Java file, helloworld.java. And this is the file that you will write your program on, and you will run your program with. So here you'll notice, let's take a look up here. This is basically importing everything from our package test project. We'll go over packages, but just know this is basically saying, hey, we're using everything within here test project in order to use for this file. We'll talk about how that's important, but just know that this is still necessary, but that's what it's saying. It's getting everything from the test project package, or you could think of it as a folder, and it could use it in here. Now, public class hello world. This is what we call our class heading, or our class header. This basically indicates, it defines a class, a Java class. You can think of it as an encapsulation of our code, and you'll notice it already has a name. So public class indicates it's a Java class, and this over here is the name, hello world. The name of the class is going to match the name of the Java file itself. So you notice the Java file is helloworld.java, and over here the class name is hello world. So those two names do need to match up, even when it comes to capitalization. So just make sure that if you're doing it from scratch, that the name of the file matches the class name. Okay, so we have this header, so it indicates, hey, this part is a class. And what we mean by this part is your braces, your curly brackets. Those are going to be a big part of your program. So you'll notice here you always have an opening brace and a closing brace, and that will basically encapsulate all the code for, in this case, our class. So everything that's within here is a part of our class. You cannot create the class without the braces. You'll notice, there we go, it starts giving errors. So Java needs to see, oh, okay, we're saying that there's a class here, and this is the box in which we're putting the code for that class. So now within this class, we have to actually write code within these braces in order to actually have something that's readable. So all of your programming, all of your code will be within the class itself. Okay, now another thing. So within our class, you'll notice that this is part of that little check mark box that we had to mark the public static void main. This is what we call a method or a function. You'll hear me use those two terms interchangeably, and again, we'll go over in a couple of weeks, but just for you to know, it's basically a grouping of code that will execute. So specifically this method, the public static void, just like in public class, just indicates, hey, this is a method or a function, and main is actually the name of this method. So main is the name of this function, and it is an important part to any Java file because the main method is specifically what the Java compiler is looking for. So when you go ahead and run one of these programs, it's going to look for a method called main. So it's going to look for this first, and then it will start its execution from there. So you do need this within your program, and this has to be within your class. So again, you notice it's within these braces, and just like with the class, you have the header here. So you have the heading saying, hey, this is a method. This part is called a parameter. You do not need to know about it right now. Just know that this is a way to transfer information into this function. So again, we'll discuss that more, but just know that this entire part defines it saying, hey, this is a function called main, and these braces, so again, we have our braces again, whatever code is within these braces is associated to this function. So everything within here is associated to the main method. So within your main method is where you're going to be writing your code as of now. And if you want your code to execute, it has to be in the main method, because remember, when you run your Java file, it's going to, basically the computer is going to look for where main is, and then it will go, okay, so it's here, and now we're going to go ahead and execute whatever's inside of it. So please make sure that you have the main method with its braces inside of the class. And this is typically your basic setup of any Java file. So make sure you have this, at least this part down. Okay, so now let's go ahead and this week is pretty laid back. We're not getting into the terminology you learned of last time, which is loops, if statements. We're not getting into that yet, or next week we will just get into variables. But this week, all you need to know is specifically this setup, along with how to actually, make sure this program is working. So in this case, when it comes to programs on computers, you need some kind of output. So you need some kind of information coming out to you to indicate that, this is running and something's going on. So when it comes to Java, so remember, anytime we want to write some kind of code, mostly for these couple of weeks, we're going to start in the main function. So let's go ahead, and within here, we're going to put in a statement to output something to this console. Okay, so within our main method, we're going to go ahead and use a function, oh, my caps lock, there we go. We're going to use a function called System.out.print ln, or this is also known as System.out.print line. And notice that there's dots in between. Later on in this course, we could break down further what this is, but just think of this as us calling a function. So again, functions do something. when they're called, they will start executing the code inside of them. So System.out.print line is actually the code to output any text or any kind of symbols, numbers into this console. So within these parentheses, we're going to pass the data of what it has to output. So specifically, like let's say for our project, we want to say hello world. So I'm going to go ahead, and if we want to say straight out text for it to output, you have to put it in quotations. There we go. And in those quotations, you'll put the text you want to have outputted. So in our case, it was hello world. I'm going to go ahead and save, and right now I'm saving with just the Control S. You could also do it up here with the file and the save. Okay. So this line is going to print out to the console hello world. So now if I run this, to run this program, some people will go up here to the run tab, and if you click it, you get a drop down, and you could do run as. Either way works. For us, we could just click on this, there we go, this green button with the arrow. It says run hello world.java if you hover over it. So you could just click on it, and it'll go ahead and execute. And down here in the console, you see hello world appear. There we go. And for your project, you would be done. That's all you would have to do. If you want to print out more, you could just go ahead and use the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and actually copy and paste this to the line below me. And within this string, I'm going to say it is 2024. I'm going to go ahead and save. And so now it's going to print this line with the text hello world along with a separate line. So go to the next line and say, hey, it is 2024. So if I run this, there we go. Hello world, it is 2024. Okay. So that's how you would get basic output to the console. Again, for your assignment, you just need to do the hello world, but to the console, you could do, it has to, so for your assignment, you'll just be doing the hello world. If you want to add more output, you can, but this is the general layout of how we're outputting to the console, how we actually make things appear, and how we know that this program is running. So we actually, most of us use this a lot to actually test our code, which I will go over once we progress through the course. But again, this is just a way for you to become familiar with the Eclipse IDE and how to use it along with the breakdown of a normal Java file. Okay, some extra tidbits I can explain. Let me go ahead, let me copy and paste this, and you'll notice System.println itself, so print line means, hey, print something on a single line. So in this case, it printed hello world on a single line. On the next line, so System.println, it will print this. So if I want to print something else, like cats are cute, this will print on the line below it. So let's run this. There we go, cats are cute. So notice it just depends on, System.out.print line. It doesn't depend on like the spacing between the actual program itself. Like if I do this, it's still gonna go the exact same output. Now if I wanted a space between, let's say it is 2024, cats are cute, I'll go ahead, I'm gonna get the System.out.print line again. And I could create just a, output something that's blank. So 2 quotation marks, there's nothing in between. So it's going to go ahead and try to print that. I'm doing air quotations, but print that onto a line, but there's going to be nothing. So then it'll just go to the next. So if I run it, there we go. You see, so the system execution goes in order. So when we come across the main function, it'll go down line by line. So it goes, hey, print out hello world. Okay, so we print it out here. This one says, oh, let's print out it is 2024. So let's print it here. There's nothing here, so it skips over. Then it sees, okay, print out blah. So nothing. So it goes over and it says on this line, I guess we put nothing. And then it goes to the next one. So now we have, okay, print cats are cute. There we go. And once it's done, the execution is done. So those are your outputs and how you can manipulate the spacing below. Later we could discuss, like maybe if I put dogs are cute, but I wanted to skip a line, you could go ahead and use this symbol. We'll discuss this a little more. But this symbol right here means a line break. So you notice it has the same effect as printing out nothing on a single line. So the dash n, that creates a line break. And if I do another dash n, you'll see that it'll create another break. So like 2 empty lines between cats are cute and dogs are cute. There we go. And you see 2 separate lines. So you can mess around with the output. We'll discuss what these kinds of characters are once we go more about strings and text, how to manipulate them with the Java file. Again, all you need to know right now is the System.out.print line, and that it will print on a single line whatever text you put in. Now it doesn't work with just text as well. Let me go ahead, so let's delete some of this. You could straight out print numbers from here. So if I want to print out 100, you don't need the quotations. You could just put in 100, and if I run it, there we go, it prints out 100. So I could do it like that. For numbers, it's valid if I do the quotation. So you'll notice if I do the quotes and run it, it'll still work. So it'll still print out as 100. The only thing is if you're doing text like this, so if I try to say there are 100 hamsters, it gives me an error because you need to put a quotation when it comes to text itself. So even if 100 is a number, you need to do it for text. So in this case, you'll notice anytime you get this red underlining, you could hover over it and see what kind of error it's giving you. So this is an error. You also see like a little X over here. So that's the thing with an IDE. It helps you see different errors that are occurring. And if you hover over it, it gives you a hint on what is going on. So in this case, if I hover over it, syntax error on tokens, misplaced constructs. Basically, the main part is syntax error. And you'll notice, oh, that's because we didn't put this text, this string, in quotation. So if we do that, it works. I'll go ahead and save. And if I run it, there we go. There are 100 hamsters. Okay. So that was just the difference between using numbers and text when it comes to the System.out.print line. So just make sure you keep that in mind. I'll reiterate it in the future. Another tidbit is there's not just System.out.print line. You could just do System.print, but this won't have it on its separate line. Actually, here, if we erase this, so if I do System.print 100 in System.print cats, what this will do is, as compared to System.out.print line, is it will put this on the same line. So it won't go ahead and, like in this case, hello world, once it's done, it goes to the next line. You could think of it as like a cursor going through hello world, and it hops to the next for whatever else it has to output. But here for print, in this case, it'll go 100, but it won't go to the next line. It'll keep the cursor there. So when it prints cats, cats will appear right next to it. So if I run it, there we go, hello world, 100 cats. So if you have come across examples with just a normal print, that's what it's doing. It's keeping the cursor there. as compared to print line. For instance, if let's type two of these, hello world. First, think about how you think this will come out. So just give yourself a moment. You can pause the video if you want. Okay, now if you come back, let's go ahead and run this. So moment of truth. There we go. So as I mentioned, print line, it'll print whatever is in the parentheses. So it goes ahead, and once it's done, it'll put the cursor on the next line. For print, it'll go ahead and print whatever is in the parentheses. So this is 100, but it'll stay there, so it doesn't go to the next line. And same thing for cats. It goes over, stays there. So now when you say print line, it's still going to go from where you have the cursor at. So it'll go ahead and print hello world, and since it's print line, it'll set the cursor on the next line, so the next step below it. And then it'll go ahead and do hello world, print it out, and now the line is here. Okay, so that's just basic output for a Java file. And for turning in your assignments, remember that path, that system path that you got earlier when it was basically for all of the files within here. You're going to navigate that in your file system. So I'm going to go ahead and go through my Windows File Explorer and go find that folder. Okay, so I went to that folder based on the path that it gave me earlier. And again, so mine was from my local disk, it was in users, Jasmine, Eclipse workspace. Again, it's going to be different for you based on where that path is. And you'll see, if I put this side by side, basically these folders is what you see over here. So all you have to do is look for your specific folders. So in my case, it was test projects, so we'll open that. And remember, our code is within the source folder and inside of the package test project. So you'll follow that inside. So you'll go to your source folder. There we go. There's our package test project. And this is your Java file. Typically, these is what you're going to submit to Canvas. So I can grade it. So just make sure that you're getting this and submitting it to Canvas. For your project, you also have to put in screenshots, so make sure you're doing that as well. But for your Java file, remember it ends with an extension .java, and this is what you can either drag and drop to Canvas or navigate and find. Okay, so that will be it for this video. Again, if you ever come across any difficulties, either struggling with the material or even something technical, please feel free to reach out to me. And of course, I have my student hours on Wednesdays. If you cannot make those times, which are stated within the syllabus, if you can't meet those student hour times, I'm also open to making an appointment. So same thing, virtual. Just make sure you send me your availability or when you would like to meet, and I could work around my schedule to assist you with any of the assignments or even just going over the material. Alright, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.